reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alison Lagrange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global South. Join me every weekday live on First Post. Hello and welcome to First Post Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I'm Alison Lagrange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. First, let's take a look at the headlines. Israeli military says ceasefire with Hezbollah violated after what it called suspects arrived in the south. Israeli tanks hit 6 areas in southern Lebanon. Iran threatens to end a ban on possessing nuclear weapons if the West goes ahead with reimposing all the UN sanctions, which were lifted when Tehran signed the 2015 deal. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia fired cluster munitions at Ukraine's energy facilities in a massive attack, calls it a despicable escalation. French President Emmanuel Macron welcomes Nigerian President Bola Tinubu for a 2-day state visit, with both sides seeking increased economic cooperation. China reiterates its vow to crush any attempts of Taiwan's independence, as the island's President Lai Ching-te is set to stop over in Hawaii during a trip to the Pacific. Hello and welcome. Our top focus today is on Mozambique. The southern African country continues to remain on edge after the disputed presidential polls in October. Protests, violence and killings have gripped the nation since authorities declared the ruling Frelimo party as the winner in the presidential elections, that the opposition has rejected, claiming they were rigged. In the latest, at least 2 have been killed after anti-government protesters demonstrating against the election results clashed with the police. The killings took place in the northern city of Nampula, where police opened fire on hundreds of people. The protesters, who had blocked traffic with barricades and burning tires, confronted the police sent to break up the blockade, resulting in chaos. Angry clashes also took place in the capital of Maputo after a military vehicle mowed down a woman. Video shared on social media showed many protesters sitting on a wide road, playing checkers and posing for photos. This is when a military vehicle arrived at the scene. One vehicle then sped through and struck a woman. The woman was left in a serious condition with blood spilling onto the road. After the incident, protesters stoned the military vehicle and the security forces. However, they were met with tear gas and bullets in response. Some rushed to her support, moving her to a different vehicle.
Polícia queria ajudar, negaram. Pronto, é isso que queriam. Bom, é bom.
Mozambique's army later confirmed that its vehicle had struck a woman by accident. The army said that the vehicle was on a mission to clear roads blocked as a part of the demonstrations. It said it regretted the incident and that the victim was being treated in hospital. Rallies were also held in other parts of the capital of Maputo, where people are pressing with the demand of ending the long reign of the ruling Frelimo party. Unrest has erupted in Mozambique after the 9th of October polls, which were won by the ruling party Frelimo's candidate Daniel Chapo, with over 70% of the votes. His victory extends Frelimo's 49-year-old reign. However, the opposition candidate Venancio Mondlane, backed by the Podemos party, who won 20% of the votes, claims himself as the true winner. He is believed to be hiding in South Africa and has been mobilizing protests through social media, calling for people to demonstrate against the results. Rights groups say at least 65 people have been killed so far in the post-poll violence, including at least 10 children. However, the outgoing president, Filipe Nyusi, who will step down in January, has put the death toll at 19. Nyusi has urged the opposition leader, Mondlane, to join talks on the deadly post-vote standoff. He met briefly with 3 other candidates in the disputed early October election on Tuesday. However, Mondlane says that he would only attend the talks virtually and on certain conditions. Now, these include the scrapping of legal proceedings against him related to the post-vote violence. Mondlane also wants certain agendas on the talks, including restoring electoral truth. President Nyusi is yet to respond to these conditions. Until then, Mozambique continues to be in the grip of political chaos, adding to the nation's crises, including a worsening Islamist insurgency. Now, what broader implications can the unrest in Mozambique have? To discuss more on this, we have with us Boitumelo Ben Senokoane, a political analyst who is joining us live from Pretoria in South Africa. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Now, what are the primary grievances that are driving the unrest following the October 9th election results? And how have they evolved since these protests began?
Look, the issues of Mozambique, you'll know that there's been allegations of vote rigging and irregularity during elections. And by implication, this has led now to, possible human rights violations. So that's more or less where the situation is.
And what role, if any, have external actors or regional dynamics played in either escalating or attempting to resolve the current situation in Mozambique?
Look, you will know that SADC had called a special meeting, especially mid-November, where they had called a summit in Harare to discuss that. But there's since been a little bit of side discussions between leaders of different nations. But there are also some views that SADC is failing because of its limited powers in the region and, also AU in that regard. So we'll have to wait and see whether there'll be further meetings beyond what has happened and whether they will yield positive results.
Sure. And Boitumelo, what are the potential long-term implications for this unrest, for Mozambique's political stability and economic development, particularly in its resource-rich regions?
Look, the reality is that there will be economic difficulties beyond this point. There will be an issue of food problems in the region, especially in Mozambique. It will also have implications as far as political stability is concerned, moving beyond this point. So we hope that the situation will be arrested sooner, quicker, so that we are able to salvage the situation. And the biggest losers in this will be Africans themselves and the citizens of Mozambique. So we hope that if parties will sit down in the table and try to come with an amicable solution. But we hope that SADC and AU will also move quicker in trying to find a solution.
Boitumelo, thank you very much for being with us on Firstpost Africa and for your analysis and insights there.
Thank you very much.
Staying on with Southern Africa, Africa's diamond hub Botswana is now also going to become a diamond certifier. Botswana will certify rough diamonds that will be exported to the Group of Seven, or the G7 countries. It will be ensuring that these diamonds are not mined in Russia as part of the G7 sanctions. Currently, this task is assigned to Antwerp, a city in Belgium, which is Europe's diamond hub. Botswana's addition comes after the country's newly elected president, Duma Boko, visited Belgium this week. He met with the Prime Minister, Alexander De Croo, and attended the annual Facets Diamond Conference in Antwerp. At the conference, he spoke about Botswana's role in enhancing transparency and accountability in the diamond supply chain. Now, certifying the origin is part of the G7 efforts to keep their imports free from Russian-mined diamonds. It is a part of the broader sanctions campaign that the Western nations have imposed on Russia. Russia is the world's largest diamond producer. In January this year, G7's ban on non-industrial diamonds mined, processed or produced in Russia went into effect. In March, the ban expanded to include diamonds mined in Russia, but cut and polished in other countries. To determine if the diamonds being exported from third countries are not Russian-produced, the G7 set up a verification node, basically an office that could certify the origin of rough diamonds. This office was opened in Antwerp, so Antwerp became a single checkpoint for all diamonds entering G7 nations. However, this created problems for the other diamond-producing nations, which opposed the move, including Botswana and other African nations like Angola and Namibia. Following the opposition on single node setup from these countries, the G7 has been working with Botswana for it to become another verification node. G7 Diamond Technical Team and Botswana have increased collaboration on enhancing traceability and transparency in the diamond trade. They are identifying the gaps and say that Botswana's export certification node would be operational next year. The G7 is also engaging with Namibia and Angola to consider setting up additional export certification nodes. Botswana is the second largest diamond producer in the world. Discovery of diamonds has been key for making it one of the most stable nations in Africa. Around 20% of the world's diamond supply comes from Botswana, and diamond exports make up the lion's share of the country's foreign trade. However, recently, Botswana's diamond industry has suffered a setback with a downturn and decreasing demand, while lab-grown diamonds gain popularity. The end of 2024 is almost here, and those with a travel bug would already have their bucket list refreshed for the next year. For the past few years, Kenya's Masai Mara has been among the top destinations on the travel bucket lists for many. Beyond the savannah wilderness, Kenya also offers pristine Indian Ocean beaches. But what if we told you that despite this, the East African country has dropped on a regional travel index? Yes, it's true. Kenya has plunged in the latest rankings of how open it is to visitors from other African countries, which is compiled by the African Development Bank and the African Union Commission. The East African country slid 17 places on the index and now ranks 46th out of 54 African countries. This latest drop in the travel index comes after it was ranked 29th last year on ease of travel to the country. Reports suggest that this decline is primarily attributable to the introduction of the Electronic Travel Authorization, or the ETA requirement for most travelers visiting the country. The drop is also surprising, as just last year, President William Ruto announced that Kenya would remove visa requirements for all visitors, including those from Africa. The move was highly praised at the time. But in place of that, most travelers now have to apply online for authorization before leaving their home country, leading to criticism on the new visa under another name. Now, the Electronic Travel Authorization determines if a person is eligible to visit Kenya or not. It is required for most people traveling to Kenya, including visa-free nationals and children under 16. All travelers must pay $30 for an entry into Kenya. while show documents such as flight details and a proof of a hotel booking. The ETA generally takes up to 3 days to be processed and is valid for a period of 90 days. And only citizens from the East African Community Regional Bloc, which includes the DRC, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, Uganda, among others, are exempted from this procedure. Before the introduction of the ETA, visitors from more than 40 countries, including several from Africa, were able to arrive in Kenya, get a stamp on their passport and enter without paying. But growing security concerns have led to the government to introduce such measures. Now, reports suggest that it had become necessary for the government to vet travellers coming into the country, and this was especially true as threats from terrorism were growing. Kenya has been targeted by al-Shabaab terrorists from neighbouring Somalia in several notorious attacks. Yet, despite the implementation of the ETA, the country has still not seen a drop in tourists visiting the country. Reports suggest that Kenya has seen more than 1 million international visitors in the first 6 months of 2024. This is a 21% increase from last year. Now, the government expects over 3 million foreign tourists visiting the country this year. The East African country sees most tourists coming in from the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, Italy, India, and China. But this has not helped Kenya climb the ranks in the VOI index, and it is surely not alone in that spot. Cameroon and Algeria also share the 46th position with Kenya, and this is followed by Egypt, South Sudan, Eritrea, Equatorial Guinea, Libya, and Sudan, who are all at the bottom of the table. In contrast, Benin, Gambia, Rwanda, Seychelles, and Ghana are the top-ranking countries on the index. But Kenya's slip in rankings has certainly raised more voices of criticism against the ETA system. Will the East African country end the system to improve its ranking on the travel index? Only time will tell. And now we move on to our last story from South Africa, where water shortage has led to a crisis for residents living in Johannesburg. Going into the summer months, residents have found it difficult to get water to fill even their basic needs, as the city authorities have imposed a daily limit to stop overconsumption and to allow maintenance against leaks. This has hit businesses and essential services, including hospitals in the region, leading to several protests in recent weeks, demanding Johannesburg Water Board to step down. Our next report gets you all the details.
This is Johannesburg, the largest and most populous city in South Africa. Located in the northeastern part of the country, the city has historically been known for its gold deposits and mining industry. However, now it's known for something else, its water scarcity problem. Heading into the summer season, which usually falls between December and February, several households are finding it difficult to get water to fulfill even their basic needs. Citizens living in Johannesburg are facing dry taps not only for hours, but sometimes for days.
Since Friday, we didn't have any water, and we were told that Saturday it will all be restored. They told us that there are issues and problems with valves. We don't know what that means because they have also built a second dam that they say will be bringing water here in Lilibus section. We have toilets inside our homes. For me, the worst part is that I have a nursery in my house. This is a big challenge, and it's worse, worse, worse. The kids have to wash their hands, we have to flush the toilets, and we also have to wash the kids.
The crisis that has engulfed thousands has risen due to daily restrictions imposed by the administration to stop what they say is overconsumption of water and to allow maintenance work. This has hit businesses and essential services. Hospitals in several parts of Gauteng province, which also houses Johannesburg and South Africa's capital, Pretoria, have also been affected due to this shortage. So why has this situation arisen? And why are there daily restrictions? Rand Water, the supplier for Gauteng province, warned of high water consumption earlier this month and instructed municipalities to impose daily limits. The water supplier is also concerned about leakages and thefts of water.
We have noticed that there are leaks within the municipal systems, different systems. We are losing an average of over 40% if you look at it in Gauteng.
In addition to leaks, prolonged drought conditions have severely impacted water shortages. On top of that, rainfall has been much lower than average this year due to El Nino. And finally, there is income inequality in the usage of water. While the elites get to enjoy swimming pools, the city's poorest residents are left struggling for their needs. Protests have also erupted on the handling of the water crisis in Johannesburg in recent months, with the Democratic Alliance Party calling for the Johannesburg Water Board to step down earlier this week. But despite that, water shortages have continued. And instead of efficiently resolving the problem, a blame game has ensued between the parties. The municipalities say that they are doing what they can with the resources they have.
We have built 114 megalitres of reservoirs and water towers, which is meant to store water for the city that will last for more than 48 hours. But we are not getting enough supply from Rand Water for us to have our storage capacity filled to its maximum capacity.
However, Rand Water is only licensed to withdraw a fixed amount, which is approved by the Department of Water and Sanitation. This means that the situation might only get worse in the coming days. People who have not only suffered a power outage last year will now struggle to get water as the authorities plan to tighten the rules on water consumption.
And that's it on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching and goodbye.